draw your spine up tall. Sit high enough that you can, in fact, do that. Might, take some experimentation to figure out. Butt bones, pelvic floor, parallel to the floor. The vertebral column and all its intrinsic support, those ligaments, those muscles that support this column all the way up to the skull, is an active thing that's happening. They are pushing against gravity and drawing up away from it in a particular way. So it's the kind of interesting thing about this work is that a muscle can be long and contracting at the same time. It doesn't have to just be shortening when it contracts. You can create height, lift between the pelvis and ribs, and you can support that lift. And you can still breathe. So the vertebral column is meant to find gravity and push to it. That includes the thigh, the lower limb, from the buttocks down, and the spine comes up. And it supports the skull. Even this round bony structure is supported like an egg on a pillar that sort of broadens out right at your ears. And it broadens out at the pelvis. And your brain inside rests. And the breath breathes sideways, all up and down this column. Pelvis, abdomen, chest, throat, even inside the skull, all up and down the column. And the limbs release away from that column and away from the brain. Join your palms. When the lids of the eyes close, they close by the top lid softening and spreading and releasing from the top down. So as that eyelid skin becomes very soft, so does the sensory system and the brain. As the eyelid settles, so does the brain. As the brain settles, so do the limbs. That skin of the trapezius also softens like the eyelids. The skin of the buttocks and side hips softens like eyelids. And the spine stays tall. In this way, the mind is quiet, the breath is penetrating. Pay homage to this practice. Pay homage to the teacher who brought this to us. Patanjali. And bow to that teacher and this practice. Release your hands. Raise your head. Open your eyes. Stretch your legs. Now, clear off your sticky mat. And one thing to do here. Clear off your sticky mat, and you're going, well, I'll start here. You're going to lie down. Well, sit first. And this prominent part of the heel, you're just gonna hook at the edge of your sticky mat. So you've got a marker, you have a landmark. And if you move in your action, you'll know it. So take Dandasana and open that back thigh, back calf, and keep your heels on the floor. Now be even more kind of careful. You've got it below the knee and above the knee. And then there's that, you can actually see it in the wrinkles, the center of the joint. So look at the top shin outside, inside, and the bottom knee outside and inside. On the back of the knee, bottom and top, put those four corners down. Don't push from the top. Use the leg. Okay. Best way to do it partly is pressing down. Move the thigh down, move the shin down. But even better is wake up the foot and extend the leg, and that begin extending from the hip out to the foot will give you more length in this back knee. So stretch outward and begin coming down. You are not allowed to pick up the hips and tuck your buttocks and get that flesh out of the way. You must argue with your bones. And not the cat. Stretch the leg, keep the back leg lengthening toward your feet. Come down on those elbows. Look, my back arches because I'm fighting so much. Now, when I'm at this semi-resting place, I turn the pelvis and I'm not picking it up. If anything, my buttocks are kind of being dragged across the floor and the bones are moving and the heels are staying put. And then you get some of that out and come down on your shoulders and look, I'm going to back bend again. If it hurts you, stop, okay? Fix things. If it doesn't hurt, you're just in an awkward shape, keep going. Turn your pelvis. Don't move those heels. Don't move the heels, move that spine. You have to stretch the leg farther. You have to open this front hip if you're not moving those legs. Are you noticing one leg does better than the other? One pelvis turns better or worse, stickier? Notice the difference. Do not let your feet move. if you did back up, put your feet back where they started and go again. You've got to lengthen that groin. That is the deal. Lengthen the groin. Lengthen the front hip. You have to work till that actually happens. If we were in a yoga studio and there were no restrictions on proximity, I would have you help each other by pushing those front hip blades slightly toward each other. That means if you cannot see, but imagine the front hip blades, the part that faces the ceiling, rolling toward each other so the sacrum spreads. And they also take those front pelvis bones and move them toward the navel. And then there's a person with an imaginary strap that is threaded across the lumbar spine, left to right. And the person holds on to that strap and is dragging it towards your heels. So your buttocks are pulled away from your skull. And you stretch your legs so the heels don't move. All right. I hope your legs are working very hard. They should feel like they are developing a kind of radiance. Come out. Bend your knees. Bend your elbows. Roll to the side. Come up sitting. And then stand. So now you're vertical, you're upright, standing on 2 feet. Stand in your Tadasana with your feet basically lined up with hips, so don't be together at this time. Be apart. So your legs must stretch here to the floor. From the root of the leg, actually take your hand to this top buttock. This isn't the total root of the leg, but it's a really helpful one. So this curve, the hand is wrapping around the curve of that hip blade. Side hip blade, right here is the front, so here's the side. My thumbs are on the sacroiliac. So standing there, push that flesh down. And you can feel, if you hunt for it, that release is coming from the skull. Now be careful that you're not letting the thighs drift forward. Remember the instruction to open the back knee, those 4 corners of the back of the knee. So instead of thinking of the knee joint proper, you think of below and above the knee, and they're having to move all 4 corners equally. And I will announce right here that I know I've got a way of cheating, I confess, and I bet you do too. So it may not be the same way, but my way of cheating in this leg is when I really make that leg come toward vertical, when I really move that thigh back to open that back knee. What happens is I roll to the outer foot. Do you see my foot When I fix the hip, it is subtle, but maybe you see it. I lose the inner foot, and I can feel it, right? And a few of my teachers have spotted it. But you can feel it if you're paying attention. Make sure that foot is evenly placed, just like the four corners of the knee, and make your corrections with the foot included, with your contact with the ground included. And it's going to wake up more leg, hands on the hips as you need them. But let me suggest that as your foot contact gets more even and the joints in the leg get more even, right? And the long muscles get better in position, you won't need your hands so much to get that sense of grounding. Go back to even breath. Stretch the arms and come up Urdhva Hastasana. So your hands are far away from these hips, but you got one hand up in the air and same side, but a second hand is on that top hip. Just giving a little reminder. Release, come out. Out. Okay. Vrikasana. So for those who still, oh, wait, we have one more thing to do before Vrikasana. Watch this. I'm going to turn and bring this in. Okay. Okay, so you've got a view of my feet. This is me at the wall. This is me a foot, 12 inches away from the wall. And then I lean. And I lean in a straight line. Don't fall on the wall. Just lean. We'll keep watching. This is a way of using this side to get longer. So watch. In the lean, if both feet are on the floor, my hips are turned. So I bring this hip up. This one has to come up in level, in perpendicular to the spine. So this foot's not on the floor anymore when the pelvis is back to Tadasana level. Do you understand? This is crooked. Okay? So my hand is here, keeping senses on the pelvis, and I'm stretching from the heel to the floor. Sorry, cat's in the way again. Calf to the floor, thigh to the floor, buttock to the floor, genuine root of the leg to the floor, and then stand, and you'll find you'll be longer. Go, do this in order. So you are 1 foot away from the wall. Do it the right side first, so we're all kind of on the same instruction page. And lean, and then pick up that it's the left leg that's going to be away from the wall. Pick it up so it's level with the body, not the room, and perpendicular to that spine. Separate the left leg from the body so it is several inches from the floor. Keep your left hand on the pelvis, lifting it, sort of reminding it not to descend. Now breathe, and then straighten the leg and stretch through the heel, then the calf from the knee, then the hamstring from the buttocks, then the buttock from the top pelvis, and then the lumbar spine from the kidney. And that foot should just now be barely on the floor through all that extra length. Now, feet parallel. Don't turn the foot out, Cliff. And then come out carefully and stand 2 feet on the floor. And you I hope you notice a difference. It should feel that left side is longer. Yes, turn around, change sides. Now, if you got nowhere, come slightly farther away from the wall and be more mindful that that outside hip stays lifted. Use, in this case, it's the right hand or the right forearm. So lean to the wall, lift the right leg away from the left. Keep that standing leg, the left leg tall, by the way, don't sink on it, and lift the ribs. Now stretch the right leg, it'll still be up in the air, it does not go to the floor. So Cliff, the camera's a little, yeah, okay. And some of you are stretching that leg forward, it goes straight out to the side. It's like, not horizontally, it's like Tadasana. Tilted, the leg comes out and stretches toward the floor, like Tadasana. The sideways view stretches straight away down to the floor. My heel is away, my pelvis is lifted. I am super stretching that leg from its root, heel, calf, thigh, pelvis, kidneys. And then come out and stand on 2 feet. And hopefully there will be some additional activity going on in those hips. Now, a chair. I'm gonna put my camera back in its usual spot. So you may or may not need the chair, but it's a good start. This is Vrikshasana. So your right foot is going to come up to the chair. Some of you will stay here for reasons of tight hips and you're just getting the basic actions, right? And I hope you're clear on this. We have this leg is now strongly weight bearing and you've got to pull up that groin. And when this foot is off to the side, this has to keep its height. Don't do those little cheat tendencies. I call it cheating because, not because I think of myself as, bad, but unobservant. So I take the easy thing. I take the thing the easy way instead of, it's actually easier on the hip to not let the foot go. Now this buttock has to come down. This hip comes up, this buttock goes down. Fine, come out, change sides. Stand, then the foot. So if you want to get picky, when you're stiff, this foot, when you stiffen the hip, see how my standing leg is toward the back of the chair seat, and my foot can be toward the front of the chair seat. When the hip is tight, you'll be like so, because that helps. If you see it, the pelvis stays square. When the hip is more open, the foot can come back, rather than just turning the pelvis. So this chair is kind of multi-position. Pull up tall through that standing leg. Move that standing thigh back. Do you see it? How it's tilted across this frame of the chair back. Move it back. Stand up tall. Descend the buttock. And out you come. So you can continue with this chair. This, for some of you, is hard enough. And as I say, the leg starts becoming radiant with effort at this. When the hips are stiff, that's your Vrikshasana. Now, regular Vrikshasana, for those who can, you can, of course, take support. You can come away from the wall. You can balance as you will. But watch, this leg stays tall, the right leg bends, find your breathing. The breath is both a sensory tool and it's also a tool of action. It's an organ of action, you might say. Breath isn't an organ, it's an instrument of action, okay? And also an instrument of sense. So open this groin, even exaggerating, lift your chest, place the heel as high as you can against that pubis, if you could, and press in. Keep that height. This foot is going to help you keep this height. Push with that foot. It's going to help you ground the leg. Now, the view from the side should not be with that thigh forward the way you might have, noticed me saying on the chair. Get that thigh back. Watch what's happening through your feet. That one foot on the floor first, then the other foot. Release, come out. Stand on 2 feet. And then change sides. So you can face sideways, you can face forward, but don't be at a partial angle. Side 2, use the chair if it is useful for balance or for that knee. You might think Vrikshasana is an elementary pose, but genuinely keeping the hip open here, learning that alignment. For beginners, pushing this foot against the thigh tells the leg to turn off, right? It's the thigh gets droopy, the knee drops, the leg just settles, and it becomes a resting pose. So I'm asking you to weight this leg up and stand on it. In the same way you stretched in that tilting exercise with your shoulder at the wall, can you stretch that leg from the rib cage, kidney, lumbar, pelvis, hamstring, back of the knee, back of the foot? First, the standing leg. If you can get this height, the lifted leg action only helps here. It doesn't hinder. It only helps. Release, come out, stand on 2 feet. Okay. And all right, so slightly different hip action. You can hold on to a wall, just take some support and catch your foot and stand like so. Now, this with that lifted leg, knee bent, you can hold the foot or you can hold that ankle. You hold wherever it helps you level the pelvis and come up tall, not sinking. You see the sink and you see the extension. So extend your standing leg and then extend the lifted leg. Extending the standing leg to vertical, including the pelvis, and then extending the lifted leg, keeping the front pelvis open. So draw the shin of that bent leg toward the foot as much as you're stretching standing shin to the floor, standing thigh to the floor. Lengthen the bent leg thigh to the floor, and then turn the corner, stretch to the foot. Wake up both feet. Fix the contact with both feet, both knees. By the way, even though your right knee is folded, the inner and outer corners of the knee should fold evenly, not one side pinching. So if that's not happening, a knee rope can help, and that can help the hips. Release, come out carefully. Stand on 2 legs. Walk in a circle if you need to release tension. Stand. Also, if the knees begin to get stiff, a way to walk that helps is like this. Just come up on your toes like that. That helps regulate the knee. Take a step, come up like this. This can help that sense that the knee might be a little sticky. Okay. Side 2. Left foot up. Catch the foot. Now, being quite careful in correcting the right leg. Oh, and if you need a strap, by all means, have a strap around that ankle. Yep. Whatever it's your second leg, for some it's the left, for some it's the right. I don't mind. Now, the standing leg has to back up to the vertical, and you must stand evenly, inner foot, outer foot, inner heel, outer heel, thigh back, back of the knee open, and the hip long. Then the bent leg starts lengthening itself. Front pelvis lifting, watch what those buttocks do. Buttock flesh. And I'll go back to mentioning that leg is extending from the brain to the foot, not just the buttock, not just the rib cage. And out you come. Good. Now, just for a 2-legged pose for a change, can we take Trikonasana? Now you take it with a tall brick or a chair, because the idea is unless you're feeling flexible, you can always lower the brick. So start with feet parallel just for a moment there and get those groins open. Then separate the feet. Balance those feet. Stretch the legs as if you're stretching them from their physical, muscular roots up here. And the nerve that feeds the senses to and from the leg and the organ of action, they both go from the brain. Stretch your arms, turn the legs. Think what we've been doing. This thigh's got to go back. The four corners of the back knee open. That foot evens itself on the floor. You should find that continuity of action. Turn the right thigh. Push the right foot into the floor. No release of contact with the floor, and be even about it as you bend from the hips to take Trikonasana. So I typically underestimate how wide to take my feet, and it always helps me if I go wider. This back leg thigh is the standing leg of Vrikshasana. It has to go back, and the back knee stretch to the floor, and this front hip come up away from it, and the buttock go down to the heel. Push both feet into the floor. Inhale, come up, turn the feet, and to side two. Take that nice wide stance. Anchor the right foot. Don't neglect the big toe side of that foot. Outer heel, big toe. Push your left leg into the floor. From the roots of the leg, stretch. The kidney, the diaphragm, roots of the legs extend into the floor as you bend from the hips. Take your hand to as high a support as you need to begin with. If there's neck trouble, put your hand on your hip, otherwise stretch away from the skull. Now move that back leg, top thigh back. Don't think with the knee unless you think of all four corners of the knee. And lift that pelvis up and away, rolling the ribs. Push both legs into the floor. Inhale, come up, turn the feet. Bring the feet together. Now, when you do it, that should have felt that should have felt good. Did it? Yes, no. Stiff, mobile, stiff. Mobile, mobile, mobile-ish. Okay. You need probably a bolster. Some of you will need a chair. This is Virasana, Supta Virasana. Okay, so the ones who can go to a chair, who need that height because this front part doesn't extend, you might put a blanket pad on the chair seat. And if you're very stiff, you get an extra brick as a head support. So this is the tighter person option. And you make sure that this middle chest, the bottom of the shoulder blade goes to the edge of that chair seat. See how I hold it with my hands? Then the chest comes up on the chair and the head can rest on a brick. If the chest could come up higher, you wouldn't need the brick. Do you see? I could come down flatter. But if there's stiffness, you support the head. The idea is to stretch this front hip. So with the chest coming open, if you see this, look, the hips come up and that front thigh is lengthening. Okay. So now those who can go lower, you can put something underneath your knees on a bolster. Keep your pelvis on, not off. Now you get to turn your buttocks and lie flat. Look, my knees may roll up, that's fine. My head may fall off the end of the bolster, that's fine too. It's actually, you're set up right. Your neck and skull are supported kind of comfortably, and so is the tailbone. And the knees you see are on this blanket.
And Devon, what is the purpose of raising the knees?
To be level with the hips and spine. We haven't asked for more than that yet. We've asked for just a genuine straight line there. So I'm asking for a similar thing here. And you know what? It feels like a back bend when the front hip is tight. Now, Gabe, make sure your tailbone is on that bolster. Make sure the knees are, unless you're really flexible in that front hip, your knees should be as high, your shins should be as high as the bolster. So go with that blanket underneath the knees and pick up and turn those hips. And if it hurts your back, you gotta pick your knees up higher. You could even roll them up off the blanket if you need to. Chaya, are you safe there in your low back? Good. Yeah, that seems like a yes. So, and Pratima, the ones I can see, there may be stiffness in this pose. I grant you, but I am hoping your knees and spine and breath and nervous system can work inside this shape. If not, go for that chair. Now, the shin lengthens toward the feet and the front thigh lengthens toward the knee. So if you feel like the skin of the knee is being pulled taut, that's kind of a sign that the tissues are moving in the wrong direction. Can you reverse that? Get that thigh to go toward the knee. Deflate the abdomen, inflate the ribs. Use the breath as a tool of investigation. And both the inhalation and exhalation are useful. Typically, you pick one, inhalation or exhalation. Don't work on both at first. Pick and stick with it for some time. So that in-breath or out-breath, the one you're picking, is both a tool of investigation a sensory tool, and it's also an instrument of action. It's not an organ of action, but it's an instrument. So you can use that breath to focus, pinpoint a movement, or pinpoint a letting go. You can change the velocity, the duration, the volume, the trajectory of the breath, each of those factors independently of each other to influence what is happening. Inhale and come up. Bring the hands to your sides. Bending the elbows, begin lifting. Keep your chest lifted. Push with the hands. Push with the buttocks to sit down as the chest comes up. Then you get rid of the height under the knees, and then you can stretch the legs. Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. First, you begin hands and knees on the floor, and you plant your palms and release the arms from the spine and skull. Lengthen that spine from head to tail. Turn your toes under and go up carefully. Stretch the legs. And even though there is a bend in the hips, the leg still extends away from the skull, away from the spine. Likewise, the arms. Raise or lower the heels. Chaya, move your feet further from the hands. Take a distant, not closer, farther. Go away from the hands. Now, push with the trunk, heels up, and you'll get more space in the torso. That looks longer in the trunk to me. I'm happy there, even if those heels don't come to the floor. Vicky, I don't know if it's a trick of light, but it seems like you're uneven on the hands. The weight on the hands is uneven. So my instruction to everybody then, whether or not I was right about Vicky, is just as you work evening the weight on those feet, work on the arms. The evening of the contact through the inner and outer palm, front and back palm, has reverberations. It has a rebound of space in the shoulders, neck, spine. This is the relationship of alignment to asana. Release, come out. Prashant says all the time that you can do a posture. The difference, he would say, between a posture and an asana is alignment. And what is alignment? Alignment is that which gives you a relationship. It activates a relationship between you and the ground, and through that, you and all parts of yourself. You can just be hanging here in a forward bend with the knees slightly bent, and you can be as flexible as you like. And you can even be so comfortable that you take a small nap, but that doesn't mean you're doing an asana. That means you're just doing a posture that's comfortable. What makes it asana is that you work to connect it to everything. And you start with the physical because that's what you're working with. Okay, Chatushpadasana. And you're gonna need your chair again, so don't lose it. Just if it's in your way, move it, but it's gonna come back. Do ordinary Chatushpadasana. Hands hold the ankles. And if you cannot hold the ankle, if it's not reachable, then you use one of these straps. You put a loop here and bring it back. So you've got something to catch. So you either catch your ankles or you get as close as you can with a strap. The strap helps the connectivity, which helps it become a little more yogic. And you put those feet down evenly on the floor, and you go up, lengthening the leg. At first, it's like just from the knee down, then from the thigh to the knee, then you feel this pelvis lengthening, then you feel the waist lengthening, and as you roll the shoulders and press the arms down, you can feel the whole spine spreading toward the chest, toward the legs. Stretch your arms away from the skull. So you do this Chatushpadasana the way that you feel yourself doing Tadasana. Watch those feet on the floor. See that you don't work with inattention and lose the evenness of contact. Right and inner and outer foot. Right and left arm, inner, especially that outer shoulder. Lift up through the ribs. Connect the pose from the brain outward. And release, come out. Okay. Is the spine okay? Everybody, I can see, give me a arm up. Okay. So roll to your side, look. Chair. Those with a stiff neck, you might take a folded blanket underneath your shoulders so the neck doesn't bend quite so much. And it goes under the shoulders. And the hands should have to adjust. And the hands should be able to connect to these chair legs, which is, let's call these your secondary feet. Here's your primary feet. They're going to the chair seat. And if you're stiff, they go to the chair legs. And if you're feeling slippy, put a sticky mat on the chair seat. So then the same thing, that shin pushes down, thigh lengthens, pelvis lengthens. It's like I'm pulling my spine up by extending my legs to that chair. That's the way I feel it, is I'm reaching out for that chair. I'm not trying to push my chest into the middle of the room. I'm trying to stand on the chair from my skull. Press the arms down, reach the arms. Lift those side ribs up. Push down on the chair. So if you feel compression in the low back, come out. So Vicky, yeah, I'm hoping you're, yes, head on the floor. Mm-hmm. You can come down whenever you like. Lengthen the outer hips. Come down and rest for a bit. And roll to your side. Come up. Watch. Since I folded this blanket in half, I'm rethinking. And I think if you need that much height, then you should just take two bigger blankets, more like shoulder stand. Or you can take one. Anyway, get a more arm support, okay, with a deeper blanket. And when you set it up, it's got to be a short distance from this chair leg so you get your proportion right. But watch what I do. Here's a variation. And it's not easy, but it's this leg and hip work. So I'll show you a beginner way and a less beginner way. Here you go, hooking those feet and coiling up. Okay, now the feet have to come toward each other. You see me fussing here with my feet. It's to get them together. And then I pick the right leg up. So all the standing work is on the left leg. You can straighten this leg, you might say perpendicular to this line, if you like, or you can leave it bent. Push that heel. Keep the outer hip, outer thigh long. Okay? This is an interesting one. So you can repeat the prior pose. In the hips that are crooked, you may have difficulty feeling able to maintain level hips, able to keep the foot standing on the chair even. One side is like steady as a rock, and the other side, every time you raise that foot, the hip drops and you have to push it back up or something. When you spend time there, what does the standing leg, the one pushing on the chair, what happens in the low back, outer hip thigh? Can you keep space amidst that extra work it's doing? Change sides regularly. Watch that you do not increase pressure on your throat. Keep that chest lifted. Don't let the bending, the leg coming out over your head, don't let it drop your chest. That's why you keep the knee bent. You can't keep the shoulder stand type lift. Now, after you've given equal time to both sides, come out. This is the easy version. And you all could do it, but maybe you could see your tendencies in the hips, the low back, shoulders. Yes? See some tendencies. Okay. So the next layer is to put, I'm going to change this, is to put the feet on a lesser height, but still a height. So I'm gonna put some bricks in place. And if you need more than two, then they go up against the wall, so you're safe and you add height, right? You make a stack of bricks. I'll just make a stack. 2 bricks. They need to be close because you're going to do this one-legged pose. You can't be, if your feet are wide apart, you sway to get balance, and that changes your back. So you need to bring your feet together so your hips stay level. So those bricks there can't be wide spaced. Okay, so that's your first thing. If bringing your feet together makes your low back hurt, maybe this isn't your pose today. You go back to 2 feet on a chair, and maybe you work getting your feet together when there's more room, where there's more room. So you get in close. And you come up, and look what I do. I hook the heel on the edge of the chair, brick, so it doesn't go anywhere. So I'm pushing, and it pushes to the wall and to the floor. Now, the reason I'm on bricks is so I can lift and get my hands at least under my hips. So maybe if I stretch my arms more and bend the elbows, maybe I can get to my hips. And from my hips, the right leg comes up. So I'd say 2 bricks is good for most people without a wrist injury. I've got my share of little thumb and wrist issues. So maybe 2 bricks, your hands can come up underneath your buttocks. Now you need to be able to turn your fingers away from the head. Don't just have those hands turned sideways, fingers pointing outward. Stretch your arms. Lift your chest. Push your feet down. Get the hands in there. Wait for a bit. Kind of get used to what's happening. If it's really going wrong, go back to the chair. Be willing to take the pose that works. Now you ready? When you raise that right leg, watch how the weight tries to rock and roll on that pelvis. You have to stand on that left leg and work internally so you don't break your wrist. Now, don't lose that foot contact through the brick foot. Take that leg down, change sides. Keep the knee foot straight, keep that pelvis internally holding its level. Don't just rely on your poor wrists. Lift your ribs. Take the leg vertically to the ceiling. Some of you, it's going towards your head. Let it stay upright and lift your ribs. Come out. Now, if your hands are, you can come out all the way. Now, if anybody wants to try it again, the way you might develop it is trying to you can start on the bricks to get the hips lifted. See if you can come up any higher and then step down, or I'm just getting rid of a brick. So I step down and do the same pose and get rid of that brick. Do side two, get rid of the bottom brick. Now that you're on your wrists, it's easier to lower the legs. It's easy to come down. See what happens. If you're sensitive in the back, be careful. You can go 2 bricks, pick up 1 foot. When you bend it, lower that brick, just kick it off to the side and go down 1. Then the other leg. And if you want to go farther, keep proceeding 1 step at a time. 1 step down, lengthen the trunk, extend from the roots of the legs in the spine, in the brain. Vertical leg, don't go past vertical. And when you have done both sides, come up. Clip's getting some lift there. Good. Okay. So you are sitting in swastikasana on the floor or on blankets. You've just had some experience with your spine, and if it's a little stiff, sit on some height. Make yourself comfy and turn to the right side. soft turn. In the same way, you are keeping your pelvis level and steady in that Setu Bandha, not letting it drop and wobble one side. Don't let you're turning to your right. Don't let your right pelvis move. Come back around. Change. Don't let the left pelvis slide back into the twist. Keep the neck even with the thoracic spine unless and until that rotation is free. No stiffness in the neck. Come out. Change the crossing of the legs. Stretch and take side 2 and turn to the right. So the extension of the leg that we've been thinking about all day is easy to recreate in your left leg, the leg you're turning away from. But keep it also in that groin of the leg you're turning toward. Don't lean over that leg and close that side, that groin. Come out. Sit up tall. The side you're twisting away from, it's very easy to keep the extension on that side. The side you're twisting toward is the side we often call the closed side. And it's, perhaps you can feel it in the sense that that leg root up in the groin and the pelvis is not as open as it is on the right side. You have to work with breath and posture and mind to equal out that side. Come out. Okay. Shavasana, start with the knees bent and then lie flat. Support your head if you like. Something else that might feel good is laying a blanket over the top thighs, a small weight. It just reminds those groins and hips to soften, settle, be quiet. Blanket around, a belt around the ankles and a blanket across the thighs. Not for, or a bolster, it's not warmth, it's just that sense of weight. Feedback, yes, sandbags, they work. Even here in Shavasana, the breath has 2 roles. One is the communicator of sensory information. As you breathe, the senses are activated. So the breath is kind of an input facilitator. The breath is also, even in Shavasana, the breath is also an instrument of action. Or, we could rephrase that, an instrument of surrender, an instrument of interaction, an instrument of it isn't just as simple as the exhalation is the output and the inhalation is the input. It's not like that at all. The inhalation is both sensor and instrument of action. The exhalation is both sensor and instrument of action. Now it is technically the end of class. You may stay as you are. I hope to see you Wednesday morning. Namaskar. No need to get up. Bye.